There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're not being punished. And you're definitely not unlucky. What you're going through isn't proof that your desires don't work for you. It's just proof that your assumptions are still running the show. And that's a good thing, because assumptions can be changed. See, you might think you've done everything. Affirmations, visualizations, letting go, inner child healing. But if your world still looks the same, it's not because nothing is working. It's because something is working. Your inner self-concept, your assumptions about who you are and what people are like, is being reflected with brutal accuracy. That's not failure. That's feedback. Life isn't random. The people in your world aren't showing up by accident. Every moment, every interaction, every rejection, every delay, it's all a mirror. Not of your worth, but of what you've accepted as truth. People are responding to the version of yourself that you keep imagining, believing, assuming to be real. This isn't about blame. It's about power. Because once you understand that people don't treat you based on who they are, but based on who you assume yourself to be in their presence, you stop waiting for someone to save you. You stop trying to prove yourself. You stop begging for crumbs. You realize that you've been the director all along, handing out roles and watching people perform your inner script without even knowing it. And once that clicks, everything changes. Neville Goddard said, "Everyone is you pushed out." At first, that can sound poetic, even confusing. It feels abstract, like some philosophical puzzle. But when you live it, when you truly observe the way people show up in your life and how those interactions mirror your innermost beliefs, it becomes one of the most sobering and yet most freeing truths you'll ever discover. It's not just a pretty phrase, it's a key that unlocks the hidden mechanics of your reality. Let's say someone ghosted you. You had a deep connection. It felt real. It felt mutual. You shared conversations that went past the surface, laughed at the same things, maybe even made future plans. It was electric. Then suddenly, they vanish. No closure, no explanation. Just silence. The cold kind that echoes. And it stings. It's easy to spiral into self-doubt. Was I not enough? Did I come on too strong? Was I too much or not enough? Why does this always happen to me? But before you let the narrative spiral out of control, pause. Take a deep breath and gently ask yourself, what did I assume about people who get close to me? What do I honestly expect love to feel like? What do I believe, deep down, maybe beneath my awareness, about how people treat me when I start to care about them? Because here's the hard truth. If you've lived through abandonment, betrayal, or emotional unavailability in the past, there's a high chance your subconscious has stored that pattern and labeled it as normal or expected. And when something gets stored in the subconscious, it becomes the lens through which you perceive reality, even if your conscious mind is affirming something different. So now, even when you meet someone new, your assumption is already whispering, "This won't last. They'll leave eventually. I always mess this up. I get close and they disappear." And the thing is, that assumption doesn't just stay in your head. It carries a vibrational charge, an emotional weight. It becomes part of your energetic signature. And the world around you, people, events, outcomes, responds to it. That's not because you're cursed. It's not because something is wrong with you. It's because life, reality, this 3D experience, it's loyal to your inner blueprint. It's loyal to what you expect. Not what you say in passing. Not what you write in your journal once a week, but what you feel to be true deep in your bones. That person didn't ghost you because you're unlovable. They didn't leave because you weren't good enough. They played out the role your subconscious handed them. They simply filled in the gaps of the story you've been carrying all along. They reflected back the assumption that felt most real to you at the time. And here's the kicker, the game changer. If your assumption had been different, if you truly expected to be chosen, if you felt secure in yourself, if you believed love was safe and stable, if you knew you were worthy just as you are, then they would have shown up differently. Maybe they wouldn't have ghosted at all. Or maybe someone entirely different, someone aligned with your new self-image, would have entered your life instead. Because people reflect your beliefs about yourself. Not necessarily what you want, but always what you assume. This isn't about control. It's not about manipulating outcomes or forcing others to behave a certain way. It's about understanding reflection. It's about seeing that every encounter, every relationship, is a mirror held up to your inner world. And once you shift the assumption, once you take the time to rewrite that internal script, the mirror shifts too. The world starts to respond to the new vibration you're holding. People show up differently. Opportunities feel easier. Love becomes less about chasing and more about receiving. Because when you change your self-concept, your reality has no choice but to follow. Most of the assumptions shaping your world are invisible. They're not loud. They don't scream, "I'm unworthy," or "I'll never be rich." They whisper. They blend in. They camouflage themselves so perfectly into the fabric of your everyday thoughts that you don't even notice them. They show up in the way you hesitate before speaking up at work, unsure if your voice truly matters. in the way your heart sinks when someone takes hours to reply, and a quiet panic rises that maybe they're losing interest, in the way you brace yourself for disappointment, even when things appear to be going well, especially when things are going well. Assumptions are quiet, but they're incredibly powerful. They don't wait for you to give permission. They write the script before you even walk into the scene. They set the tone for how you carry yourself, how you interpret people's words, and how you respond to situations. That friend who stopped inviting you out. That boss who overlooks your efforts, even when you go the extra mile. That partner who keeps repeating the same painful patterns. Before any of them did anything, before a word was said or an action was taken, your subconscious had already formed a belief about who you are, how others see you, and what kind of treatment you can expect from the world. And the world, like a well-trained actor reading from a script, simply followed your inner cues. Let's say you grew up in a household where love was conditional, or where criticism came easier than praise. Over time, this wires your inner world to expect rejection, disapproval, or emotional distance. As an adult, you may consciously desire a healthy, secure relationship, but deep down, you've come to associate love with walking on eggshells, with trying harder, with proving your worth. So, when your partner sighs in frustration or seems distracted, you don't pause to consider they might just be tired or stressed. Instead, you instantly assume you've done something wrong. You feel the need to fix it. You explain yourself. You overthink. You apologize before there's even an accusation. And that very energy of trying to earn affection, of believing love must be worked for, can become suffocating to the other person. Not because they're cruel or indifferent, but because your assumption of not being enough is being pushed out and subtly shaping the dynamics between you. It's not manipulation. It's not conscious control. It's manifestation. But not the kind you do with vision boards and morning affirmations. It's the kind that runs silently in the background, constantly, effortlessly, and often without your awareness. It's the emotional atmosphere you carry. It's the invisible expectation that people and life will treat you the way you assume you deserve to be treated. And so they do. And this is the hard truth, the kind that can sting before it sets you free. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you expect. You attract what feels familiar. You attract what mirrors your inner identity. That's why people who deeply long for secure, lasting love keep finding themselves in emotionally unavailable situationships. That's why those who crave success find themselves procrastinating or sabotaging opportunities the moment things start to align. Not because they're lazy or broken, but because their internal thermostat is set to a certain level of receiving, and anything outside of that feels unsafe or undeserved. Until the assumption changes, the mirror stays the same. You can change partners, jobs, cities, but the pattern follows you. Because the common denominator is not the world, it's your belief about the world. And the good news, once you shift that belief, once you challenge the old assumptions and replace them with ones rooted in worth, love, and abundance, the mirror can't help but reflect the new you. Every version of life is already available. The question is, which version are your assumptions tuned into? When you finally see that life isn't happening to you, it's responding through you, something clicks. It's not just a nice quote or a comforting idea. It's a shift in perception so deep that everything starts to look different. You begin to understand that the people, situations, and outcomes around you aren't random or out of your control. They're responding to your assumptions, your self-concept, your energetic tone. And in that realization, a strange kind of peace sets in. Because suddenly, you're no longer a victim of circumstances, you're the author of them. You stop fighting the characters in your story and start rewriting the script. You realize you don't have to beg anyone to see your worth. You don't have to over-explain yourself, walk on eggshells, or play mind games. Because here's what no one tells you. People can't show up differently until you assume something different about yourself. It doesn't matter how much effort you put in, how many chances you give, or how many boundaries you try to enforce from a wounded place. If your self-perception remains rooted in lack or unworthiness, people will only ever mirror that back to you. You don't change people by trying harder, proving yourself, or pretending you don't care. You change people by changing the version of yourself you keep being around them. You become the version of you who no longer needs to convince anyone of her value, because she knows it. And from that place of knowing, everything begins to shift. Let's say your ex keeps treating you like an option. Every time you talk, it feels like you're walking back into the same painful movie, different day, same script. You think, maybe this time it will be different. But it's not. And you feel the same sting, the same confusion. But instead of analyzing their behavior or trying to decode their mixed signals, pause and go inward. Ask yourself, what do I believe about myself in their presence? Do I feel chosen? Do I feel seen, respected, desired? Or do I feel small, anxious, invisible? That version of you, the one who doubts, who waits, who fears, is the version they are responding to. The version that assumes love is earned. That attention must be fought for. That being an option is the best she can get. But the moment you shift your assumption, the mirror cracks. You stop seeing yourself as someone hoping to be loved and start knowing yourself as someone worthy of love. Worthy without effort. Worthy by default. And then, people rise to meet that version. Or they fall away because they no longer fit the new script. And that's okay. Because the version of you who knows her worth doesn't cling. She doesn't beg. She doesn't chase breadcrumbs. She trusts. She trusts that whatever leaves is creating space for something more aligned. She knows that when she holds the standard, life adjusts accordingly. This isn't about pretending. It's not about putting on a mask or faking confidence to get a reaction. It's about embodying the truth of who you are. It's about becoming someone who assumes she is the prize, not arrogantly, but quietly, deeply. Someone who doesn't need to be chosen because she already is. Someone who no longer entertains versions of people who can't meet her where she's grown. You're not stuck because others won't change. You're stuck because you keep assuming they have power over your experience. You keep waiting for the external to shift, forgetting that the real transformation begins within. But once you shift your inner world, once you become the version of you who is safe, worthy, loved, and enough, then life has no choice but to match that. People either reflect the new version or exit your life. Either way, you win. Because you've stopped needing validation and started living from truth. It can be painful to realize that the people who hurt you are just reflecting back what you believe to be true. It's a hard pill to swallow, especially when you've been through heartbreak, betrayal, or deep emotional disappointment. In those moments, it's natural to feel like a victim of someone else's choices. But underneath the pain is a truth that holds enormous power. They were only playing a role that your inner beliefs cast them in. They weren't showing up to punish you. They were responding to the assumptions you held about yourself, about relationships, about what you were worthy of receiving. And as heavy as that truth might feel, it's also the moment you take your power back. Because if your assumptions created this version of them, then new assumptions can create a new version too. You're never stuck. You're never doomed to repeat the same story unless you continue believing the same things. And the best part, you don't need anyone else to change first. You only need to change the way you see yourself, and the world will catch up. Yes, even the same person can show up differently. Not because you manipulated them, not because you played mind games, but because you stopped playing those games with yourself. You stopped waking up with a clenched heart, waiting for the day to disappoint you. You stopped walking into conversations expecting criticism or distance. You stopped looking at people through the lens of your old wounds. And just like that, everything softens. You stop walking into conversations expecting tension. You stop bracing yourself for rejection. You stop assuming that you're always the one left behind, forgotten, overlooked. And as you release those assumptions, a new dynamic begins to unfold, one where you're met with warmth instead of coldness, connection instead of withdrawal. You might notice someone suddenly becomes more affectionate, more available, more present. You might see shifts so subtle at first that you second-guess yourself. But over time, they become undeniable. The partner who always felt distant now initiates closeness. The friend who always seemed half-distracted now listens deeply. The coworker who used to dismiss your ideas starts asking for your input. Not because they went to therapy or had some awakening overnight, but because the version of them that matched your old self-concept no longer exists in your current awareness. And this isn't just limited to people. This works in every area. That job you thought you'd never get. That opportunity that always seemed out of reach. That version of success you kept putting off for someday. It starts to chase you the moment you stop assuming you're not good enough, not ready, not deserving. That friend who always cancels plans or treats you like an option. They start showing up differently when you stop expecting to be overlooked. When you decide you're no longer the backup plan. When you stop settling into the role of the forgotten one. It's not magic. It's mechanics. Pure, precise, and consistent. You change the image you hold of yourself, what you expect, what you believe, what you feel to be true, and life, like a loyal mirror, reflects it right back to you. It always has. It always will. There is no separation between what you assume and what you experience. Change the assumption, and you change the experience. Every single time. So if you're tired of being overlooked, mistreated, underpaid, unloved, ghosted, misunderstood, look in the mirror. Not the one on your wall. The mirror of your assumptions. That's where it all begins. You don't need anyone to come back and apologize. You don't need a big sign from the universe. You don't need to fix every wound before you're allowed to believe something new. All you need is a decision. From this moment on, I see myself differently. Because the moment you do, the mirror can't help but respond. You might notice subtle changes at first, a softer tone in someone's voice, a random compliment, a text you weren't expecting. These are not coincidences. They're shifts, confirmation that the outer world is rearranging itself to match your inner conviction. And as you stay in this new assumption, the mirror begins to stabilize. People reflect your new identity, not because you made them, but because you finally stopped making yourself small. This isn't about being delusional. It's about being deliberate. You are the operant power. You are the cause. And you don't need to chase anything. Just assume differently and let the mirror do what it's always done, reflect back who you believe you are. Your life isn't waiting for someone to change. It's waiting for you to remember who you've always been. And when you do, the people, the love, the money, the opportunities, they all show up. Not because you begged, but because you became the version of you who always had them. This is the mirror principle. This is the truth that sets you free. What's one assumption you're ready to let go of today? Drop it in the comments and declare your shift. I will meet you with another golden nugget. Happy manifesting.